Hey folks, Endall BL here, and I'm back with another strategic guide on triple fleet defense this time. In a couple of days, when Grand Arena opens, we are going to have everyone in Kyber setting three fleet defenses, and we'll need three fleets on offense to take out the enemy fleets. So this is a big change in Grand Arena. Probably in a while, this is going to impact not only the fleet zone, but also the character zone. It has implications for that as well. So I'm going to give some of my thoughts on the implications of this, how we should be thinking about the points and the zones, and then I'm going to go into each and every fleet and talk about some of the counters and some of the strengths on offense and defense for each fleet. I'll have everything timestamped down below, so feel free to go and if you want to skip to a section directly, go ahead and skip that. And I'm going to give tons of links as well because there are tons of really great resources out there on fleets. So let's move over to the first section, where I want to talk about some resources. Now, a lot of you might be already aware that, but there is a fleet Discord out there which gives some amazing resources. There's some really passionate folks about fleet in there, and they give some amazing resources on fleets. In fact, KP67 and Savita from that Fleet Discord have actually helped me give some feedback on the presentation that I'm putting together. I wanted to go and share a few resources that I feel everyone should know about from the Fleet Discord. There's an example of a really great resource that I personally find very useful is a ship stats calculator. It's a Google Sheets put together for inputting your own levels of gears for your own pilots, and what it outputs is what the projected stats for the ship is going to be if you compared to the current stats that you have. So you can decide to what extent you want to invest in a particular pilot or a set of pilots in order to get the ship to the speed or stats that you desire. This one is a pretty great tool. I'm going to leave a link down to this down below as well. Apart from that, they've got additional guides, like they've got a Fleet 101 guide. They've got a Word document on fleet battle reinforcement orders. They've done tons of testing and they've put together some thoughts on what are the different tiers in which fleets actually reinforce when they come on, especially when you let the AI do it. So all of that stuff is they've got tons of resources out there that I encourage everyone to go and check out. I'll leave the link to the Fleet Discord down south as well in the comment section. And then I definitely want to call out Bit Dynasty. There's another content creator, Bit Dynasty, who's very passionate about ships and makes some really great videos. If you've searched for any counter videos on YouTube in the past, you might have come across some of his videos. He's got a website, SWGOH for Life, which has got a good interface to go ahead and search for any specific counter that you want. So I'll definitely go ahead and direct you guys over there as well. And now, having said that, let's talk a little bit about this change which is taking place right now, keeping three fleets on defense, three on offense. What does it exactly mean? Now, there are in total of 9 capital ships in the game and only 47 regular ships. Now, this might change. We might have additional ships coming, but at least as of now, we have too few regular ships. The bottleneck is not the capital ships. The bottleneck is regular ships. With 47 regular ships and 9 capital ships, you barely have 5 or 6 available for each cap ship, and you can barely take in maybe 6 or 7 battles. So it's going to be a challenge, at least initially, for everyone in Kyber to field 3 decent fleets and at the same time be sure about taking out 3 fleets on offense. One thing with which this change is going to bring about is that hybrid fleets are going to be a thing of the past. Like before, where people used to put in the TIE bomber with the Negotiator fleet, those kind of fleets are going to be are not going to be as common anymore. You'll find straight up all faction specific ships together because people can't really afford to break out 2 good fleets in order to put one decent fleet on defense or on offense. So that's going to be something which might not happen as much. One thing, given the fact that there's so few regular ships, one thing that everyone shouldn't be afraid to do is to go undersized, both on defense and offense. On defense, already bounty hunter fleets, everyone keeps only the 2 bounty hunters on as reinforcements. So undersized is perfectly accepted and quite common in defense. The other advantage of keeping undersized ships on defense, even for fleets like Negotiator, for example, is it allows you to force certain ships to get in first. If you put in 4 ships as reinforcements, it's really difficult to say which one is going to come out first. There is a like I mentioned in the reinforcement list that the free Discord server has put together. There is a certain order that get preferred. Like sometimes tanks usually get are the ones who get called in first, but if you put in fewer ships on defense, that gives you better control to figure out what ship is actually going to come out. Similarly, on offense, if you put in fewer ships, that gives you more regular ships in your back pocket to use on cleanup if it's needed. Because the last thing you want is to have cap ships available but no regular ships available if you want to go in and take that one lone ship out, which is remaining behind for a cleanup. And the other thing to talk about is you can't really afford multi-shots. Like we said, you're keeping 3 fleets on defense, you're going to keep 3 on offense. You and you have just maybe 1 or 2 extra fleets with very few ships remaining behind. You really can't afford 2 or 3 fleets to use in a counter. If you take in executor counter like the Malevolence or something like that, a lot of times, especially these days, the fail rate for Malevolence is extremely high on the Executor. You're not going to be able to one-shot it, so you end up taking in Raddus or maybe the Rebel fleet afterwards to clean it up, or maybe even the First Order fleet. So you could very well end up wasting 2 or 3 good fleets to take out 1 good fleet. That is probably going to cost you the clear, because if your opponent has kept 1 or 2 other good fleets on defense, you are probably not going to be able to clear if that's going to be the situation. So that is something that you just can't afford, multi-shots. The only way in which you can sometimes afford a multi-shot is maybe if you use a very, very weak burner fleet. Mace with a couple of really weak ships that you're really not going to use anywhere can sometimes be sent in if you want to burn the cooldowns. And then if you want to go in with your real fleet afterwards to have a better chance to succeed, especially if the speeds don't work in your favor, that might be possibly the only way in which you can multi-shot is to Mace is very disposable. So if you want to give a disposable ship like that, it should be perfectly fine. And then the other thing is, a lot of people might be thinking, I mean, do I leave an empty, if I don't have enough ships, do I just leave an empty slot out there? I strongly believe this is a bad idea. I mean, you're giving your opponent max banners, because your opponent is just going to get the 79 banners or whatever is the max amount for that particular fleet battle, and you're saving them a cap ship. Essentially, your opponent does not have to waste a cap ship to take out your 3rd ship, and that gives them more on offense to clean up your other 2 ships if things go south. So don't do that. I mean, even if you want to go and set a really weak Mace ship with one really bad fleet, at least you're forcing your opponent to waste a cap ship and forcing them to have less on offense later on, and maybe you might even cost them a few banners. And then finally, if you think your opponent has really got the edge on you in fleets and they're going to set a really tough fleet zone that you can't clear, even if you take your best ships on offense, then what you have to do is you have to prevent your opponent from clearing your fleet zone, because otherwise it's a death sentence. You have to make sure that if you think that you're not going to be able to have a chance against your opponent's fleet, keep your toughest fleets on defense. Make sure that your opponent fails to clear you if you also fail to clear your opponent, and then you can battle it out in the character zone. That's probably the only thing that you can do if you face an opponent with really, really good ships and strength in taking out tough ships with off-meta counters. That's probably one of the only options you might have. Now let's talk a little bit about how the defensive board is going to change. Now in the old scenario, you get a certain number of points for clearing the zones, and you get a certain number of points for defeating teams. Here I've assumed you get 65 banners for defeating character zones and 70 banners for defeating the 2 fleet zones to get 140. That gives you a soft max right now in Kyber of 1731. It could be a little more if you decide to zoom more for ships, but 1731 is the situation right now. In the new scenario with 3 fleets, this is what it's going to look like. Instead of 186 for clearing the zone in ships, you're going to get 219 points for clearing the ship zones, about 30 more, and you'll get maybe 70 points more for defeating an extra ship on defense. So about 100 points more is where you will be. So from 1730, you'll probably start seeing a softmax scores of 1830 or something like that in the new scenario. Now, in the old scenario, clearing the top was less advantageous than clearing the bottom. Clearing the bottom gave you approximately 80 banners more than clearing the top would give you. Here I'm assuming that you get 65 banners for character zones, 70 banners for ships, and you only clear 3 out of the 4 zones in the top and 2 out of the 3 character zones in the bottom. So in this case, you clearing the top clearly has a less of an advantage than clearing the bottom. In the new scenario, the banner advantage is actually going to be for the bottom. There's a very slight advantage of maybe 30 banners if you go for the bottom, which means that it'll have a very interesting impact, because if someone is really facing a really tough bottom zone, they might just decide to go to the top, clear the ships, get a few more banners, and then just pray that the opponent does not clear the bottom as well. There could be a case to open up the top zone first in this situation, just to see how the ships are, and then decide how you want to approach the bottom zone. So that's going to be an interesting change. Let's take a look at a few defensive board scenarios. One is, if you feel that you're really not that comfortable, and a lot of people initially at least might start doing this, is they'll cheese ships. They'll put really 3 weak ships and take 3 of their strongest ships on offense in order to be able to clear the opponent. Now, and in this case, if you want to battle it out in the character zone, then what you'll have to do is what you're currently doing, which is save your best, toughest characters for the bottom, and prevent your opponent from clearing, and hopefully win by a couple of 100 banners, just because you have cheese ships and you have enough to clear your opponent's ships. The other situation is you cheese ships but keep your toughest characters in the top, blocking the ships and not blocking the south. So have a medium defense in the south, but keep all your GLs, all your toughest teams at the north, and prevent your opponent from clearing the north at all costs. Now, because your opponent, whatever ships he places, if you're able to clear them, you should be able to get a full clear. You might struggle a little bit on the character zone, but if you're able to prevent your opponent from clearing the top zone, then you will have a huge banner advantage, 400 to 500 banners easily. Obviously, this implies that your opponent will plan to go down south first and try to clear over there before attacking the top zone. So if you keep reasonably tough teams, which will pull a lot of the GL counters in the south, then when your opponent finally gets a chance to attack the north, they probably, you can hope that they fail against the GLs and they won't be able to clear 2 zones, the GL zone up north and then the ship zone as well. And then, even if you're inefficient in your own battles, you should be able to get an advantage. So that's the second situation where you cheese ships, but you block the ships with really tough character zone. And then the final situation is, you can keep really tough ships and a really tough character zone at the bottom. So the goal over here is to prevent your opponent from clearing 2 zones again, tough ships and and the back character zone. And at the same time, because you're keeping your best ships on defense, you probably on your own also might not be able to clear your opponent's ships. But that's perfectly fine, because what you're planning to do is you're planning to beat your opponent in the character zone, and you're trying to you make things as tough as possible for them in the character zone, so that they struggle both on ships as well as character zone, and you struggle only on ships because you're being purposeful about not clearing the ships and focus your attention on the character zone. So there are a couple of situations where you can make ships a non-factor and focus on the character zone, but again, it depends on what your opponent decides to do, so you have to be flexible with your strategy. All right. Let's talk briefly about some ships which can be considered wildcards. Now, in most cases, you want your capital ship to you want your regular ships under the capital ship to be faction consistent. So you want the same factions to get the synergy with the cap ship. But there are a few ships which don't necessarily need to put in with their own faction. They are flexible, that you can put them across any capital ship. And let me give you a few examples of that. You've got some tanks like Clone Sarge, Sunfac, and B-28 Bomber, which not necessarily need to be with their factions. In fact, Clone Sarge is a lot of times preferred not to be in the Galactic Republic faction. You can use Clone Sarge under Raddus, under under Finalizer. Sunfac is also a very popular starter just because he taunts every time that there is a buff on the enemy, and that actually gives him ability to be a really flexible tank as well. Cleansers. Now, these are the couple of ships which are really great cleansers. In fact, there are only two ships in the field right now, Plo and Gauntlet, who can cleanse all the debuffs on your allied ships. There is a capital ship Raddus which also does that, and I believe Executor also does it. But in terms of regular ships, there's only Plo and Gauntlet who do that, and that makes them extremely valuable, either to call in as a reinforcement or in a starting lineup. If you want to have the cleanse available, these ships are extremely valuable for that. And if you don't have a good Empire fleet built up, you can use your Gauntlet, even if it's low stars. You can use it as an reinforcement to cleanse debuffs if your ships really lack that ability to cleanse. And then let's talk about some reinforcements and flexible starters as well. Now, Ebenhawk is a great reinforcement. It's a great anti-Empire and anti-Bounty Hunter fleet, just because it cleanses target locks and it prevents target locks from being applied. So that can be used under any fleet, even in an Executor mirror. Ebenhawk is pretty useful. Cassian is great because he comes in as a reinforcement, cleanses the buffs, and then allows you to target any other ship and take them out. So really good for sniping out those problematic ships. And then the others, you've got Ghost, Scimitar, Jedi Counselor, Lando's Millennium Falcon, which are all great in reinforcement as well, and you can use them in many different factions. For starters, you've got TIE Fighter Pilot, which is not only used in an Empire fleet, he's used very, very regularly in other fleets as well. You can use TIE Fighter Pilot in Negotiator fleets, in mirrors especially, if you want to force your own capital ship, your own Negotiator to go first. Even if you're an R8 facing an R9 Negotiator, you can force your own capital ship to go first if you play it appropriately with the TIE Fighter Pilot. TIE Fighter Pilot is obviously used quite heavily in Malevolence fleets to counter Executor as well. And then another flex starter is Fives. Fives, because of the fact that he's so fast, and TIE Fighter Pilot is also very fast, which allows you to control the battle. Fives is also so fast, and the additional thing that Fives has is he gives turn meter to the enemy ship when he attacks them. So this way, what you can do is you can force a specific enemy ship to go first and disrupt their turn order. Like, for example, if you're taking in Fives against a Negotiator fleet, use a basic and attack and go after Rex first, or Y-Wing or Ahsoka, because you force them to then go next and waste their ability, to waste their cleanse, or in the case if you target Ahsoka, for example, you debuff her with Five's basic. She cleanses it on her turn. She doesn't do damage. She instead cleanses it and gets the retribution up, and that actually forces Ahsoka to use a specific turn that you want her to use. So that's basically the advantage of Fives. You can use them in any squad as a starter if you want to force a specific team, specific ship to go first. Now let's talk about, so there's not only ships which are wild cards. You can also use potentially cap ships as in a very flexible manner. Now, if you don't have your Empire or Executor fleets developed, as an example, one way to potentially split up your Separatist fleet on offense to give you a little more options is to have your droids go with Malevolence, which is going to be Vulture Droid, Hyena Bomber, and instead of IG 2000 with your Bounty Hunter fleet, if you don't need it there, or if you don't have Executor, you can put IG 2000 over there as a starter, and then that's all you need, because Malevolence fleets survives on summons. So you can just summon, you keep using your specials, summon Vulture Droids, and you should be able to do perfectly fine with the Malevolence with just these 3 ships. It'll give you some additional banners for undersizing as well. And then your Separatist fleet, your Sunfac, Geonosian, Shoulder, and Geonosian Spy, you can then put in with a Chimera fleet or any other fleet, or Tarkin fleet, for example, if you want. And that gives you an additional option. So that's one example of how you can be flexible with some ships and split them up so that you make more fleets out of less fleets. And then the final point I'd like to make over here is there are a couple of ships which are really, really important that they really need to have speed. The first thing I did once it was announced that triple fleets is going to be there on defense is I went ahead and my Biston and Scarif Rebel Pathfinder were G12. I gave them relics. I got them to R4 and R5, and I think that was just enough for them to outspeed my Hans Millennium Falcon. If you want your Rebel fleet to be decent and to have the highest chance of success against fleets like Negotiator and other tough fleets, your Biston's U-Wing should be faster than Hans Millennium Falcon. Keep in mind that Biston's U-Wing gets 25% speed bump, so you have to take a speed, multiply it by 1.25, and you'll get the effective speed. That should be faster than Hans Millennium Falcon for most of the Rebel counters to work. So that's the first thing. The second thing that I did after gearing up Biston and Scatterful Rebel Pathfinder was I got my Gar, Saxon, and Imperial Super Commando up to G11. They were previously G8 or something like that, but I put some gear on them, got them to G11, upgraded all of their abilities, and that basically got the Gauntlet up to 150 speed. Now, Gauntlet gets an additional speed bump, gets about 15 speed per Empire ally, so he starts with 2 allies, so he gets 30 speed there, and he gets another 20 speed on top of it. So whatever the Gauntlet speed is there, you have to add 50 on top of it, and that's going to be the effective speed. So at 150, your Gauntlet is going to be at 200 effective speed, which is great, which is enough for it to be in the opening lineup and go first and do a lot of interesting things. The most important speed is you have to have Gauntlet at least faster than 142, 143, because Negotiator fleets and Jedi Knight Anakin, they're both around maxed out. Negotiator and Jedi Knight Anakin fleets are around 191, 192. So you want the Gauntlet to be at least 142, 143 in order to be able to outspeed the Negotiator and Jedi Knight Anakin fleets. So these two ships, I believe, are really important to relic or to put gear on in order for you to gain that speed advantage. All right, now let's this next section, I want to go through each and every fleet and talk a little bit about the strengths and weaknesses both on offense and defense. Now, Executor, if you plan to keep it on offense, the best use for an Executor is in a mirror. You can obviously Executor can be used very easily to take out any other fleet. Negotiator, Malevolence is no problem at all. But the best use is obviously on a mirror. And there are some specific ways in which you can use the mirror. Even if you're an R8 Piet and you're facing an R9 Piet, there are ways that you can do to get a consistent battle. Always start with Houndstooth, Xanadu Blood, and Razor Crest, and if you go first, it's no problem at all. You can go ahead and mass assist down on the enemy Razor Crest, and then you inflict mark on him, take him down as soon as possible, and then call in your other bounty hunter, which is IG or Boba, to finish the fleet. I preferably like to call IG 2000 just because he's got the double tap on his basic, which has an additional chance of applying target lock. So that's a great way to finish off the fleet if you go first. If you go second, either if you lose the coin toss or if you're facing an R9 Piet and you only R8, if you go second, then what you need to do is you will probably you'll need to taunt with your Houndstooth first, and then heal. The first move that you'll get with Executor, you'll need to heal your Razor Crest, because the enemy Executor would have done the mass assist and given your Houndstooth turns beater, which is why he would have gone first, and then would have probably inflicted a mark on either the Houndstooth or on your Razor Crest, because his Xanadu Blood is hidden. Now, once your turn comes for the Executor, go ahead and heal your Razor Crest first, and then this is very important. Use a basic with your Razor Crest on the enemy Houndstooth, and then when the turn for your Xanadu Blood comes, target the enemy Razor Crest and call your own Razor Crest to assist. What happens over there is since you're targeting the enemy Razor Crest, Xanadu Blood applies the what do you call it, the debuff on it, and then the Xanadu Blood and then the Razor Crest goes ahead and inflicts mark on that particular team, on that particular ship, the Razor Crest. So you have to go ahead and take down the enemy Razor Crest as soon as possible. The very first reinforcement that I like to call in this scenario is the Ebon Hawk, because it cleanses your target locks and prevents the enemy Executor to apply target locks, and then allows you to reach to your ultimate faster. And then in a lot of situations, if your opponent sometimes decides to go with an all attacker bounty hunter fleet, which is going to be the Xanadu Blood, Razor Crest, and IG-2000. In that case, what I like to do is I like to take out Xanadu Blood first, and then take out IG-2000 first, and then go after Razor Crest. Do not make the mistake of going after Razor Crest first. You probably won't be able to kill it before the Houndstooth comes in and starts taunting, or the Executor might just heal up the Razor Crest. So take out as many ships as you can before the enemy Houndstooth comes in and starts taunting. That's the way I like to approach that battle. A lot of people, they swear by going with heal no matter who starts first, like whether the enemy Executor starts first or your own Executor starts first. They like to go in with a mass heal, and that also has its own benefit because it puts up foresight, and then it gives you a little better control of the battle. So play around with it in the arena, see what works best for you, and then use that in a for the Executor mirror. Now, defensive strategy. If you're placing the Executor on defense, I would definitely place it on defense if your opponent does not have the Executor, because that's going to make life challenging for them, and you don't need your own Executor to take that out. Only use the bounty hunter fleets. Only use the bounty hunter ships on defense. That is only 2 reinforcements. The recommended starting lineup is going to be Houndstooth, Xanadu Blood, and Razor Crest. That gives the most problems, because if you use if you go with the attacker lineup, if the enemy has got good rebel fleet, they should be able to take out the all attacker lineup. So the only time that you should keep the all attacker lineup on defense is if your enemy has got weak rebels. Then you can start with IG-2000, either with Houndstooth or with Razor or with the Xanadu Blood, or you can if you feel that your enemy is going to mirror it, and you've got a faster IG-2000, you can also put the all attacker fleet on defense to make the mirrors tricky. Reinforcements, like I mentioned, is going to be the 2 bounty hunter fleet. If you're going with the all attacker lineup, then Houndstooth and Boba are going to be the reinforcements over there. And then, the one weakness of the executive fleet is a really good first order fleet. So if you scout your opponent and see that they've got a well-developed TIE Akilon, 6-star or 7-star, and they've got relics on Hux, 6 or 7 and higher, and in those situations, I would not place Executor in defense, because you know that they have a way to take out your own Executor for pretty cheap, because once you've got enough stars and relics on your first order fleet, it becomes pretty consistent to take out the Executor. All right, so that's the Executor. Let's move on to our next fleet, which is going to be the Negotiator. The Negotiator, the biggest weakness is the Executor. If we've got the Negotiator on offense, don't even try it against an Executor, not even for a cleanup. It's not going to work. The Executor's fleet is designed specifically to counter a Negotiator, so you'll just end up wasting a good fleet. For mirrors, that's the next best use for a Negotiator. You can, like I mentioned before, you can use TIE Fighter Pilot in starting lineup if your enemy Negotiator is faster. What you have to do is, you have to basically get your enemy to attack the TIE Fighter Pilot, and it becomes really easy if the enemy has got 5s in the starting lineup. They'll not naturally go for the weakest ship, which is going to be TIE Fighter Pilot, and especially if your TIE Fighter Pilot is faster than the enemy ship, Ahsoka and 5s, then you can put your foresight up and give your own capital ship turn meter and allow to go first to do the mass assist. Sometimes you can also use 5s in the starting lineup if you want to force Viving to go first and do its dispel ability, and then you can go ahead and dispel with your own Viving and start attacking the enemy Jedi Knight Anakin. You need to the extent possible, you need to make sure that Jedi Knight Anakin does not get Valor, and the enemy Jedi Knight Anakin gets into yellow health, preferably before the enemy Negotiator gets a chance to go, so that he ends up wasting the special ability. You have to keep attacking target locked enemies with your own Jedi Knight Anakin to spread Valor and to speed up your ultimate, because you need to reach your ultimate faster than the enemy Negotiator. The other place where Negotiator fleets sometimes may have a challenge is high relic Empire fleets. You have, especially those with really highly reliced up Gar and the Gauntlet. They might pose a problem for the Empire fleet, especially with TIE Advanced and the TIE Bomber starting lineup. In that particular situation, what's going to happen is your Gauntlet is going to go first, no doubt about that, and they're going to apply buff immunity on Jedi Knight Anakin, and that will really screw things up for you because you won't be able to get Valor, you won't be able to gain Stealth, and the amount of damage that the enemy teams Empire fleets do, your Anakin will be taken out pretty easily. So to get around that, what you need to do is you need to put in Ahsoka in the starting lineup. So start with the Y-Wing, start with Jedi Knight Anakin, and start with Ahsoka. Because Ahsoka is weaker, what the Gauntlet is going to do is it's going to apply buff immunity on Ahsoka, and then when you get to go with Ahsoka, you can then use Ahsoka's special to dispel the buff immunity and get protection up and retribution up. That's the way you get around it, and then you can do everything else with your Jedi Knight Anakin and Ahsoka to take out the TIE bomber. TIE bomber needs to be taken out as soon as possible, and then you can go ahead and finish up the rest of the fleet. So that starting lineup is extremely important if you face high relic Empire fleets. Other fleets really shouldn't be a problem for the Negotiator. Now, in terms of defensive strategy, if you want to put your Negotiator on defense, it is a very formidable fleet, especially if you're not going in for the TIE bomber lineup because people are not going to be using that as often. It's if you're going with a plain vanilla option of Negotiator, then the recommended starting lineup is going to be Jedi Knight Anakin, Y-Wing, and Rex. Now, Negotiator fleets can be countered not only by Executor but also by Malevolence and highly relicked up Rebels and Empire. So they do have tons of counters, but it's more restricted than some of the other fleets, because if something goes wrong with your counter, if you don't get the right RNG or you don't get the right assist, then Negotiator fleet can get tough to clean up as well. So that's why I feel it's one of the more premier ships to keep on defense. So I mentioned starting lineup. Jedi Knight Anakin, Y-Wing, and Rex is probably going to be the best starting lineup, which might give some problems to Malevolence. Rex actually gives a little bit of issues to Malevolence just because of the turn meter generation that happens, and can also give some problem to the Empire fleet as well. That's what I would recommend. Do not place fives in the starting lineup if you're placing Negotiator, because it makes it extremely easy for Malevolence and Empire fleets. Because if you put fives in the starting lineup with the Malevolence, the Vulture Droid is going to get turn meter first, because that's who fives is going to attack, and he's going to apply buzz droids, and then the Hyena bomber is going to follow it up with a mass assist, and it's going to really spiral things out of control for your defensive team. Malevolence has an easy time with that. Similarly, the Empire fleet, what happens if you put fives on defense is your Empire fleet is going to come in with TIE fighter pilot and apply foresight. Your fives is going to go and attack that TIE fighter pilot and give the Empire fleet turn meter, and yeah, things are going to spiral out of control from there. So fives is terrible on defense in the starting lineup. Do not place him there. Recommended reinforcements. Plo is awesome in any fleet, but if you're placing Negotiator down, I think you definitely should put Plo in there to cause problems. Ahsoka also is great as a reinforcement. Some of the other recommended reinforcements could be Clone Sergeant. I mean, if you think that your opponent might be using Rebels to take out a Negotiator, having Clone Sergeant in there is actually pretty useful, because what happens is Clone Sergeant is going to be the first one to reinforce, and your Rebel fleet, they can't really reinforce with Cassian, because Cassian is not going to be able to dispel the protection from Clone Sarge to target your Anakin to take him out. So the presence of Sarge in there actually makes the Rebel counter slightly more tricky. They'll still be able to take it down probably, but it increases the chance of failure, increases the risk of failure over there. And then finally, do not place your Negotiator on defense if your opponent has a decent Empire fleet, especially the new TIE Interceptor fleet. Even at low stars, it can do a really easy job of taking out Empire fleets. What happens is, if you put TIE Bomber, if you take in TIE Bomber, TIE Advanced, and another ship like the Gauntlet, for example, and then TIE Interceptor will naturally reduce the capital ship's cooldown by 1 because of Vader's unique. Vader has a clause in there which, if the TIE Interceptor is in there and Vader's in the starting lineup as well, the capital ship's cooldown is reduced. So TIE Interceptor will immediately be called in, or any other ship, even Emperor Shuttle can be called in, and then the battle can be very easily controlled. You dispel the buffs on all the enemies, and then apply a buff immunity, and it really makes the Empire counter to the Negotiator extremely easy. So if your opponent has got a decent Empire fleet and a semi decent interceptor and gauntlet, definitely do not place a Negotiator on defense because it'll be taken out easily. Similarly, if your opponent has a really high rebel fleet, which is with a really decent Biston, which is faster than the Han's Millennium Falcon, they're probably going to be able to rebel your Negotiator fleet pretty well as well. So I would not place Negotiator on defense in that case. All right, let's move over to the next ship, which is going to be the Malevolence. Now, Malevolence, people have been using it to counter the Executor for quite a while now, using TIE Fighter Pilot in the starting lineup. It's not as clean as it used to be. They've fixed one bug with the Malevolence where it's not the Vulture droids are not assisting as much. Secondly, the ability for Executor now to heal the weakest ship, weakest bounty hunter ship, that can really screw up the Malevolence counter because you're trying to work so hard to try to get a ship down, and just when the ship isn't red, the Executor takes a turn and heals it up all the way to full. That really reduces your chance of failure. So I definitely would not recommend the Malevolence against an Executor fleet right now, just because you can't afford multi-shots. You could have a chance if you use a Mace Burner fleet and then burn out all the main abilities. That way you might be able to get through the Malevolence fleet, if not the Executor fleet, if not in one turn, then maybe in the third turn. But again, it's not a recommended strategy. Negotiator, it's pretty easy, especially if Fives is in the starting lineup. Those kind of matches, Malevolence versus Negotiator, is extremely easy. It's consistent even if Rex is in there, but you just have to have a way to control it. I think what you need to do is you need to call in Spy, hope that Spy lands the right mark on Anakin, and then you should be able to take them down. So always call spies in reinforcement and make sure that you have buzz droids available at all particular times. Also, if you can afford it, bring in a cleanser like Gauntlet or someone like that, or Plo if you can afford it, or a tank to take off some of the heat like Clone Sarge or something like that. Malevolence mirrors are usually very low banners. A lot of people, if they can afford to take IG 2000, they take that as a first reinforcement, just because it gives a little additional survivability. IG 2000 has a unique which regenerates health for itself and all the droid allies anytime that any enemy goes. So that helps your Hyena bomber to survive a little bit extra. And like I'm similar to the Negotiator fleet, cleansers will help you in a mirror as well, Plo and Gauntlet, because the enemy Malevolence will probably not have cleansers in there, so you'll be able to control them with debuffs. But if you have your own cleanser in there, it'll make the Malevolence mirror a little more smoother. The other thing to keep in mind is a lot of people don't use the Malevolence basic, but if you're going up against the enemy Malevolence fleet, and if Hyena bomber is not down yet, feel free to use the basic from your own Malevolence in order to stun the enemy Hyena bomber to prevent them from using their specials. I think that's a very effective way to do Malevolence mirrors. Now, Malevolence is also very strong against Raddus and first order fleets because Raddus has a cleanse, but it should be pretty easy for Malevolence to get it down, especially if there's no Houndstooth in the Raddus fleet. First order fleets, they lack a cleanse, and it's even with the new ship, the new Echelon ship, first order fleets should be pretty easy to take out for Malevolence. But you're not going to see first order fleets on defense anyway, so that doesn't matter. All right, and then against Empire fleet, especially with the new Interceptor, I would not use Malevolence. Even at low stars and low gear for the Interceptor, the Malevolence fleet should be able to can pose quite a lot. The Empire fleet can pose a lot of danger to the Malevolence fleet. Gauntlet in there is going to cleanse all the buzz droids and make it really difficult for your fleet. And with target locks on the board and with the defense boost that Gauntlet gives to TIE Bomber, your Malevolence is going to have a tough time taking out the TIE Bomber before your own fleet gets destroyed. So I would not recommend Malevolence against a good Empire fleet, especially one which has the Interceptor unlocked. Defensive strategy. If you want to keep your malevolence on defense, I would actually recommend it as well. If you don't need it on offense for anything, it forces low banners just because of the nature of the buzz droids. It forces a low banner from your opponent with whatever they're taken, unless they overkill it. It can be countered by Executor, Negotiator, and Hydraulic Empire fleets, like I mentioned, but it costs your opponent banners. The starting lineup, which is recommended, is going to be Sunfac, Vulture Droid, and Hyena Bomber. You have an extra taunt in the beginning, which makes it a little problematic for your opponents to target down your Vulture Droid. And then you've got if you've got IG2K and you don't need them anywhere, and if you've got them high relics, like 6 and above, then you can put them in the starting lineup for the Malevolence as well, because that makes your Hyena Bomber a little tougher to take out and enables, it can get tricky because your IG2K will be fast enough to go first and potentially land a stun and be tricky to take out as well. So in that case, what I would do is I would go with Sunfac, Hyena Bomber, and IG2K in the starting lineup, put Vulture Droid in the reinforcement to land blind. I think that might be the best use of that particular fleet lineup. Reinforcements, always go with Spy and Soldier. You don't really need to have anything more than that on defense. Spy is really the problematic one because he comes in and targets someone and takes them out. If you want to really force Spy to go out first, then just put Spy as the reinforcement and don't put Soldier at all. That is also another way to ensure that you get a snipe out on at least one of your enemy ships when they take it on offense. And then do not place on defense if your opponent has a really decent Empire fleet. They should be able to take this out pretty easily. Obviously, all negotiators and executors can take it out pretty easily, but also Rebel fleets. But Rebel fleets, only really good Rebel fleets would be able to take it out, because the way that it works is your Rebel fleet, both your Biston has to be faster than the Han's Millennium Falcon, and both of them have to be faster than all your ships. And B, your Admiral Akbar needs to be faster than the Vulture Droid, because I believe the Vulture Droid is 178 speed, and you need your Admiral Akbar to be at 179 speed so that he can go before your enemy Vulture Droids and do a mass assist and take out the Vulture Droids and not allow them to go at all. So if you feel that your enemy has got an Akbar faster than 179, or have got a really good Biston and Han's Millennium Falcon, then you can be sure that your Malevolence is going to be taken out pretty easily with the Rebels as well. All right, let's move over to the next ship, which is going to be the Home One. The Home One is an excellent ship on offense, one of the best. Real flexibility, great offensive powerhouse, and tons of banner recovery as well. Against the Executor, I would not recommend it if they go with a traditional lineup of Houndstooth, Razor Crest, and Xanadu Blood. But if they go with IG-2000 in the starting lineup, whether it's the all-attacker IG-2000 lineup or with Houndstooth, then the Rebel fleet, a really good Rebel fleet, has got a very strong chance of taking the Executor out. What you need to do is you need to first target IG-2000, take him out first because he's squishy and he'll end up healing quite a lot as well. So if it's the all-attacker lineup, take out IG-2000 first, then take out Xanadu Blood. Don't go after Razor Crest first because there's tons of defense, tons of stacks that you have to chew through, and you have to kill him twice. So don't go after Razor Crest first. Take out IG-2000 first, and then Xanadu Blood, and then the other fleets. If you lose Biggs early, which is very, very likely, that's going to happen. They're going to focus down and they're going to do a mass assist on your Biggs and take him out. Then you need to call in Viving. If by some miracle your Biggs survives, then you can get in Cassian. But Viving is a good backup tank to have in the reinforcements to take some heat off of Biggs. Now, calling in Cassian also, you need to time it right, because you have to call in Cassian only if you feel that there's no breach on your fleet, which means that Houndstooth taunt can be dispelled. So if they have no if you have no breach on your own ships, Cassian comes in, dispels all the buffs from the enemy, and allows you to target any ship that you want and take out the weakest ships out there. So that's really how you should think about Rebels against the Executor. Practice a little bit, but if you feel comfortable, then you should be able to use this against an executive fleet. Now, against Negotiator, Home One is a very common counter over here as well. A lot of people used to put a TIE Bomber in there to prevent the Home One counter just because of the anti-rebel synergy that TIE Bomber has. But now that that's going to be less and less common, I think Home One should be used more and more often against Negotiator fleets. You need to, like I mentioned, make sure that your Biston is faster than the Hans Millennium Falcon. So Biston plus the 25% speed bump should be faster than Hans Millennium Falcon. You need to get your the enemy Jedi Knight Anakin in yellow or red health. So the moment you start with Biston, attack Jedi Knight Anakin, get a target lock, and hopefully Hans Millennium Falcon is going to assist. And then you're going to follow it up with an attack from Biggs and hopefully get your Jedi Knight Anakin in yellow or red health, which will force the enemy Negotiator to use the heal ability. And the other important thing to remember in Negotiator matches is don't use Hans Wiggle at all until the enemy AoE daze is out. And that might be a while. So save Hans Wiggle until the daze is out because you don't want Millennium Falcon to be dazed. You need to do the Wiggle only after the Negotiator has done the mass assist and applied daze on everyone. Against Malevolence, I've talked briefly about this. Use this if your Home One is faster than the Vulture Droid. So you need your Home One to be at least 179 speed so that you can assist and destroy the Vulture Droids. Here also, just like the Negotiator fleet, do not use Hans Wiggle, and there's two reasons for that. One is if you use Hans Wiggle, Sunfac will start taunting and you won't be able to get to the Vulture Droid and take him out. Second thing is if you use Hans Wiggle too early, then when the Hyena Bomber inflicts buzz droids on everyone, you won't be able to cleanse it off with on the Millennium Falcon. So save it for after Hyena Bomber has had a chance to do the AoE. So the way that you approach this battle is you do the basic on Vulture Droid, Mass Assist on Vulture Droid with Home One, and then take him out, and then target Sunfac, take him out, and then the other ships should fall. Hopefully your Home One should have enough damage, your Rebel fleet. Mirrors is actually a great opportunity to undersize just because the damage is so much. You can get away pretty cleanly with it, but only use it if you've got a better Rebel fleet. If your Biston is faster and if your Home One is faster, then you've got a very high chance of ending with really good banners in a mirror. That's when I would be comfortable in taking a mirror. But if my opponent has got a better Home One, I'll probably use something else. And then if you want to take out an Empire fleet, that's going to be a little tricky because TIE Bomber, you have to be comfortable enough to take out the TIE Bomber at an early enough stage. But especially now with Aquilon in there and people gearing up their gauntlets, I would advise against taking Home One against Empire just because of the anti-Empire synergy that they have. And then finally, Raddus and Finalizer should be no problem at all. There's plenty of damage that Home One does to take out both those fleets. If you want to place Home One on defense, that can actually be, especially if you've got a good Home One fleet, a good Rebel fleet, it can be problematic for opponents because of the uncertainty with which RNG happens in the attacks and the assists. It can, if your team does not really, give a fight, it can be taken out pretty easily as well, or it can end up taking out one or two early kills from your opponent. So either way, it can do decent on defense, especially if you've got the ships fast enough. Having said that, Empire is a hard counter to it, as well as Finalizer. There's ways to control it with the Finalizer that I'll talk about more in the Finalizer section. But these two fleets can take out Home One pretty comfortably. The recommended starting lineup for Home One is always going to be Hans Millennium Falcon, Biston, and Biggs. This is just a synergy that Biggs gets out of target locks and Biston. It's these three are just golden in terms of starting lineup. And like I mentioned, make sure Biston is faster than Hans Millennium Falcon. The recommended reinforcements, you definitely need to have Viving in there, Phantom, Ghost. All these are great. Wedge is also sometimes great if you've got a problematic Houndstooth that you want to clean up. Wedge reinforcement actually applies healing immunity and buff immunity, which are great for cleaning up the enemy Houndstooth. If you're placing Home One on defense, one thing to remember is don't place Cassian in the with your Home One fleet, because Cassian is not going to be called. The fleet is probably AI is probably going to call Wiving in, and then after that maybe Phantom or something else or Ghost. Cassian really might not be called, and even if he's called in, he might not really target the right person. But Cassian on offense is so useful. Like I mentioned, he's a wild card ship you can use as a flex reinforcement in any fleet to target and snipe down someone else. So if you're placing your home on defense, do not place Cassian on defense. Save your Cassian on offense. He'll be way more valuable to you in that situation. And then again, do not place your home on defense if your Biston is slower than your Hans Millennium Falcon, because that's just giving your opponent a really easy win. It makes your home one really, really soft. If your opponent has got a decent Empire Finalizer fleet, they should be able to take this out pretty easily. Or, I would actually recommend saving the home one on offense, just because there's so many flexible things that you can take out with the home one on offense that it's wasted on defense. And then let's talk a little bit about the Empire fleet, which is both Executrix as well as Chimera. Offense, this is a really flexible ship. I would say at an all-up level, the Empire fleet is great on offense and defense. I would leave it on defense only if you've got high relics on Gauntlet and the rest of your Empire fleet. But otherwise, save it on offense. It's amazing for countering so many different fleets. Executor. Now, Executor counter is a little tricky to pull off. It is possible with the new, TIE Interceptor in there. It is possible to do it, but there's one critical thing to remember. Your Vader needs to be at least R8 in this situation for the Executor counter to be viable. And why is that? The Executor fleet is going to be at around 182 speed. And that's when, at 182 speed is when the Executor is going to do the mass assist and take out one of your weaker fleets. But if your Vader is at R8, then he's going to be at 183 speed, just about one speed faster than the enemy Executor, which allows you to apply target lock on one of the characters and allows a TIE bomber to start taunting and then absorb the mass assist from Executor. That gives your Gauntlet a little bit more breathing room to Gauntlet and your TIE and your Vader, a little more breathing room to survive against the bounty hunters before taken out completely. So that's an extremely important thing. Second thing is you need to have TIE Interceptor come in, first reinforcement, apply buff immunity, cleanse all the debuffs. Hopefully a buff immunity lands on Houndstooth. If it does, that's great. You can focus on the other ships, take them out, and then carry on with cleaning up the Houndstooth when you can. So it's a little tricky, but if your Vader is able to go before the enemy Executor, even if your Vader is R7 and you feel your enemy Executor is slower than that, you still have a chance. But if your Vader is not, then this counter is not going to work. So that's the Executor counter for the Empire fleet. Negotiator, now it's become extremely easy to use a Negotiator. I would use Chimera instead of Tarkin if you're going up against a Negotiator. The Chimera is a more well-rounded ship. Tarkin is great for extra offense and turn meter generation, but Chimera is a little more survivability and a little more, well-rounded, and it's much better suited for a Negotiator counter. You need to have Vader and TIE Bomber to start because and Interceptor in the reinforcement, because that is what is going to ensure that your interceptors, that the cooldown of your reinforcement is reduced by 1. Vader in the starting lineup, Interceptor in the reinforcements. And for the third fleet for the starting lineup, the third ship after Vader and TIE Bomber, that can be if your enemy Negotiator has got Ahsoka or 5s, then you need to start with TIE Fighter Pilot. Otherwise, always start with Gauntlet. Gauntlet is a great ship to start with. It gives extra defense, extra protection. It heals, it cleanses. It's an amazing ship to start with if you've got decent speed on it, especially if you've got him at, like I mentioned, more than 150, which gives him above 200 speed. He will go before the enemy Negotiator. But if the enemy has got Ahsoka or 5s, they're probably going to go before. So you need to start with TIE Fighter Pilot so that you can target them with their special, get the foresight up, and then when Ahsoka 5 targets your TIE Fighter Pilot, then your capital ship gets turn meter, and you can basically take him from there. The strategy over here is very simple for all Negotiator counters. You basically just get Jedi Knight Anakin in the yellow or red so that the Negotiator doesn't do the mass assist in the beginning and uses the heal ability, and then finish him off as soon as possible, which should be pretty easy to do with the Interceptor in the reinforcements, and then the rest of the fleet will fall pretty easily. So this has now become a more consistent counter, especially if you've got a semi-decent Empire fleet. Malevolence is for against Malevolence, I would use Tarkin just because of the turn meter generation and the high offense, because you need to take down Hyena Bomber as soon as possible. I would start with Vader, TIE Bomber, and Gauntlet. Gauntlet is extremely crucial over here for the cleanse, and then use Emperor Shuttle and Interceptor as reinforcement. That should be more than enough to take out Malevolence fleets. It's actually a pretty easy job taking out Malevolence fleets with the Interceptor in there. For Mirror, I would use Tarkin just for the extra offense boost and TM gain, and then the other fleets like Home One, Finalizer, Raddus should be no problem at all for Empire fleets. Now, like I mentioned, if you've got high relic Gauntlet and high relic Empire fleets, place them on defense. Chimera is great to bleed banners because, if you were able to reach the ultimate, there goes one ship. You can just nuke one ship right out the gate, and it'll make things much more tougher for your opponent to recover banners. Executors also is great with the high offense and especially with a high relic gauntlet. So those are some general strategies there. Recommended starting lineup for defense would be Gauntlet, especially if you've got high relic Gauntlet, TIE Advance, and TIE Bomber, and uh, and then for reinforcements, definitely the Interceptor, the Emperor Shuttle, and then the others are optional. I would definitely save TFP for offense if you're placing the Empire on defense. TFP on offense gives you so much more flexibility to be used with Negotiator, to use with Malevolence, to be used with many other fleets, just to give your own capital ship with that little extra boost in TM. All right, and then if you want to counter the enemy Malevolence and Negotiator with ease, don't place this ship on defense. It's great on offense, especially if you've got a subpar Gauntlet. Definitely don't place a ship on defense. It'll do more for you on offense. And finally, let's talk about the Finalizer a little bit. The Finalizer is fast emerging as a really strong counter to the Executor, but you need to have a 7-star Aquilon for any sort of consistency and high relic Hux. With high relic, I mean at least relic 6 or 7 to give a little extra boost in speed and a little more consistency to the counter. The way that you go about doing this is, apply Hunted and Ability Block on Houndstooth and keep calling assists on Silencer and stun the Houndstooth and other ships where you can to take this fleet out. I won't go too much into detail in this particular counter. There are tons of great videos out on it. Feel free to check those out, and you'll get a good idea about what it takes to make this counter more consistent against Executor. But this is definitely a very big option, very strong option for those with 7-star Aquilon. Finalizer on offense against other fleets is pretty standard actually. There's a lot of control that the Finalizer fleet has. They get to go first, so they have that turn meter advantage. B, there's so many times that you can call assists and stun. You can basically control the enemy team with stuns. As long as they're more than 50% turn meter, your silencer has a chance to stun them. So that ability to control them, either turn meter generation and the ability to control them, is what makes a Finalizer so great on offense and so bad on defense. So definitely don't put this team on defense. Save it for offense, and you'll be able to take out some pretty tough teams, even with the basic Finalizer teams. For Negotiator, start with Silencer, Command Shuttle, and Aquilon. Hunted on Anakin, and then stun with Silencer, and then keep calling assist, take him down. Should be pretty straightforward. Same thing with Home One. It's a very straightforward counter. One of the more popular ones back in the day. Your team is going to go first, so start with Hunted on Hans Millennium Falcon, stun Hans Millennium Falcon with Silencer, and then control for the rest of the battle. Same thing with Empire as well. If you've got a B-28 bomber in the starting lineup for Empire, that's going to be problematic because he's going to apply daze on your characters, and daze is no good news for the Finalizer because then you won't be able to assist. So if you see B-28 bomber in an Empire fleet, take them out first, and then as a backup, if you can afford a cleanser like Gauntlet or Plo, keep those in the backup as a reinforcement in case you need to cleanse and get rid of the daze on your silencer. So that's how you approach an Empire fleet. Finalizer, Mirrors, and Raddus should be no problem, but don't take Finalizer against Malevolence. They get taken out pretty easily with Buzz Droids. They don't really have a strong cleanse game going on, so I would avoid Finalizer against Malevolence for that reason. Defensive strategy, I would not place the Finalizer on defense like I mentioned. It can be very cheaply taken out, and it's such a versatile ship on offense that I would always save it on offense. Final ship that I want to talk about is the Raddus. And Raddus, unfortunately, even with the new tank which has come in, the Raddus is really not performing that well. It's a very limited amount of things that it can take out. I would I would, if you want to use it against the Executor, there's one or two videos that I've seen on this which seems promising, but there's really no way to test it out. Is what you do is you take a burner fleet mace with maybe two or three different fleets in, and you reduce all the cooldowns of the Houndstooth, the Razor Crest, as well as hopefully a couple of cooldowns from the the bounty hunter fleet as well, the executive fleet, and then you go in with your Raddus fleet. You start with Poe, X-wing, and the tank, the new tank MG-100. In your reinforcements, you have Ray's Millennium Falcon, Sarge for the extra um, taunt, and then Lando's Millennium Falcon if you want, but that's really not necessary. Ray's Millennium Falcon and Sarge are the most necessary ones. So you go in, all the cooldowns are already off. The enemy executor is probably going to use the healing ability and put the taunt on the Houndstooth. After that happens, you need to dispel the taunt on the Houndstooth using your X-wing. That's his second special ability. So you dispel the taunt, and then you'll be able to target the other bounty hunters. And there's no way for Houndstooth to get back the taunt because he's already used his taunt, and Executive Fleet has also already used up his ability to give the taunt to Houndstooth. So there's no way for Houndstooth to get taunt now, at least for a couple of turns. So that gives you the flexibility and ability to take out the allied bounty hunter ships before Houndstooth gets to taunt again. And then the goal is you're going to race towards your ultimate as much as you can. Use your specials with when you have foresight available, so that you're able to reach your ultimate with Raddus as soon as you can, and then you can nuke the enemy ship and then clean up the rest of the fleets. Even if you're not able to clean up the Houndstooth or one or two other fleets, you can always take in a very cheap fleet and clean it up after that. That, in my personal opinion, is currently the best use of the Raddus. Against other fleets, it's really not that viable, and it's an unfortunate. Maybe if we get some better resistance fleets, or if others have better ideas about what else we can use Raddus on, feel free to let me know in the comments. But unfortunately, right now there's a very limited amount of utility that Raddus has on offense. That's why I personally am going to keep my Raddus on defense, just to be a little more banner stealing, because they do go fast. I mean, Poe is one of the fastest ships in the game, so they do go fast, and they do with the Ray's Millennium Falcon in the starting lineup, you might be able to do some AoEs and strip some banners. So that's probably the only situation in which I would use Raddus on defense. The other reason is, multi-shotting, like I mentioned in the beginning of the video, multi-shotting is really not a great option anymore with a limited number of ships. And Raddus, really, the way that the kit is designed, it lends itself very heavily to multi-shotting, because you take out the enemy capital ship and you follow up with another capital ship of your own. But if you're running short on capital ships, multi-shotting might not really be a great offensive strategy, in which case I would leave the Raddus on defense. That's my thinking around that. So those are all the ships that I had. I made a very similar chart to my 5v5 GL counter for all the ships over here as well. So here you see on one axis I have the offense, and the other axis I've got defense. And you can see over here the Executor, that's going to be great on offense against any fleet at all. So there's really no doubt about that. And if you've got your Executor mirror to a high level of consistency, then I would save the Executor on offense. That's going to be one of my preferences. And then the two other fleets which I feel you should always take on offense is going to be Finalizer and Rebels. Both these fleets are so easily taken out on defense. The Finalizer can be taken out by almost any fleet, and Rebels can be taken out very easily by Finalizer, and a couple of other, even really good Rebel fleets can be taken out very easily by Finalizer. So, and these two fleets, Finalizer and Rebels, do so much on offense. You can see over here on the offense column, the Finalizer can take out every fleet with ease, with the exception of Malevolence, and the Rebel fleet can take out every fleet with ease, with the exception of the Executive fleet, unless they have the attacker lineup, and the Empire fleet. Apart from that, the Rebel fleet can take out anything else. So, Rebel and Finalizer fleets, I would definitely save them for offense. On defense, good options are Negotiator, Malevolence, and Raddus. Raddus is going to be taken out cheaply, but if that's your best third ship that you can keep, then go ahead and keep that. But Negotiator and Malevolence at least are potential to cause banner stealing stuff, because Malevolence, just by the nature, it does so much damage with Buzz droids. It takes out enemy ships so fast. It can be a little problematic because it forces you to go in with a cleanse or a healer. And then Negotiator, the ultimate, it does just so much of damage. It applies daze, prevents cleansing, it applies bombs, it does AoE damage. So, it just strips a lot of banners. Even if it doesn't get a hold, both Negotiator and Malevolence is going to force a strong counter, and it's going to strip counters. It's going to strip banners, which is why I think these two ships, Negotiator and Malevolence, I think will do great on defense. If you want to go scorched and earth defense, if you want to make sure that your opponent does not clear your ships, if you also don't have any plans of clearing the enemy ship, or if you want to use off meta counters, you try off meta counters against the enemy's fleets. If you want to go scorched earth, then place your Executor, Negotiator, and Malevolence on defense. That is going to completely screw with your opponent and cause them problems to clear. If you've got a really good Empire fleet, Empire with Interceptor and really relicked up gauntlets, then you can place that on defense instead of say the Raddus or Malevolence or something like that. That actually is a pretty good option as well, because a highly relict Empire fleet can cause tons of problems on defense, and if people are not used to playing it against it on offense, then they can make tons of mistake, and it could be even problematic even to clean up. So Empire fleets are something which can be flexible both on offense or defense. High relict ones on defense, otherwise save it on offense, and you can take out tons of stuff on that. So that's all I had for this video. It took about an hour, but I felt it was important for me to get this video out. Tons of good resources out there that I encourage you to go out and refer to. So I will leave a link to this whole presentation in a PDF format in the comment section down below. So feel free to go ahead and check this out and save it if you want to refer to it at a later stage. I'll also leave links down below to Bit Dynasty's Swagger for Life channel, as well as the Fleet Discord server, and a couple of good resources from the Fleet Discord server. Feel free to check those out as well. And if you've got additional ideas, if you want to correct me if I've said anything wrong, or if you want to give additional ideas and additional thoughts on good fleet counters, feel free to drop them down in the comments section, and hopefully we'll have a good engaging discussion in the comments section down below. And this video, hopefully it'll be a good resource for the community going forward. All right, that's all for today's video. Thanks for tuning in. Take care and happy gaming.